Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and as is fast becoming a tradition on No Brexit Sunday, another Brexit video. But this isn't because of breaking news today, actually. In fact, in the news, there hasn't really been anything that I've seen. This was something I saw yesterday, an article I saw yesterday by a gentleman behind me, Andrew Adonis, who is a Labour peer, but he's also possibly the major figure in the People's Vote campaign. And he has suggested in an article a tantalising prospect for a type of extension to Article 50. We're at the point where realistically we all know there needs to be some sort of extension. It is really just going to come down to what conditions will both sides accept it. Because although we can't say for certain that an extension is going to be requested until votes have had this week, there's no serious money on any outcome other than the following. Tuesday, Parliament votes for May's deal and torpedoes it. Wednesday, Parliament votes for no deal and torpedoes that. Thursday, Theresa May is proposing that we request an extension for a short period of time, literally 2 or 3 months. If that's, and no one else puts forward a motion for anything different to that, it's very likely that that is the one that goes through. So Theresa May goes off to the EU and says, can we have a short extension for 2 or 3 months? To which the EU replies, what for? And then what's Theresa May going to say? Well, I reckon, because she's probably going to get a bit more support for her deal this Tuesday, by the way. It won't be close, but she'll have a few more that will go for it. And she'll go, well, there's a few more voted for it this time. I reckon after another couple of months, they'll actually go for it. To which the EU will say, don't be ridiculous. Now, that doesn't mean to say they'll dismiss it out of hand, but all that does is defer the problem. We know that if we get an extension of, let's say, 3 months, in 3 months' time, we're exactly in the same position. It'd be like Groundhog Day. So, the only purpose for an extension, let's be honest, the only purpose for an extension is we're not going to negotiate a different deal. Theresa May refuses to budge. She refuses to compromise on her so-called red lines. So realistically, the only use of this is to issue another referendum. So let's say the EU says, look, we'll grant you an extension, provided it's a sensible length of time, let's say a year, and you commit to issuing another referendum which includes Remain as an option. Might work, who knows? But the problem with that is it depends on what Theresa May wants to do. She could, we all know that she's just been acting out of keeping her party together. She may just reject it and then regard it as being the EU's fault that we end up crashing out with no deal. That is the serious danger there. So what Andrew Adonis has suggested, and this is an idea from the EU, by the way, there's no suggestion that this is what they're considering. What he has suggested is maybe, let's say Theresa May's deal had gone through, and let's say it had gone through originally, so we'd be leaving on the 29th of March, but then entering a transition period which takes us up to the end of 2020. That can't now happen. Never mind Theresa May at the moment saying, you know, oh, I'm still determined to leave on March the 29th, you need to vote for my deal. If they vote for her deal, we can't leave on March the 29th. We haven't finished copying our laws across. There's holes in the statute books that are still going to be there on March the 29th. So we'd still need to request an extension just to sort that out. But that would be relatively easy. So what his suggestion is that the EU go, okay, well, we'd already planned on you having this transitionary period anyway. Why don't you just have an extension for this 21-month period and it doesn't have to be that long, but let's just say that's the thing he's suggesting, up to the end of 2020, and to which, you know, you can see the Brexiteers go, no, we'll be stuck in for another 21 months. No. This is his cunning suggestion. It's not a set period, a set extension, which is actually what the EU have been talking about offering and what I was going on the basis of. His suggestion is not a set period, a maximum period. So in other words, the EU grants us an extension of Article 50 for up to 21 months, with the decision entirely down to the UK to at any time unilaterally say, right, we've done now, we're ready, we're going to leave. So that, and there's no arguing against that. That means that Theresa May could still leave after 3 months because it would be a maximum. The UK could say, we're ready to leave now. We don't need the remaining 18 months. We'll just leave now if that's all right. And that would be all right because the EU would give the UK the power to just end it whenever. But at the same time, it's there, available. And we all know there's only one use for an extension anyway. So available for the rest of Parliament to say, right, we've had enough of you. Let's get on with a referendum now. There are, of course, a few stings in the tail here. The first of which, of course, is the European elections. The European elections, if Britain, because this wouldn't be a transition period, this would be Britain still in the EU. And being still in the EU means that we would need to contest European elections, especially if we're still planning on being there a year and a half later. So what he has suggested in that case is that Article 50 would need amending to suggest that any country in the process of triggering an exit, in other words, under the auspices of Article 50, does not contest European elections. So the European elections would go ahead as planned. The UK wouldn't take part in them. I mean, it would be quite messy if we then stayed anyway. But, you know, that's his suggestion. My suggestion would very much be along the lines of what the EU were talking about if we had, let's say, an extension of up to a year, whereby we just, rather than hold new elections, the current MEPs just stay as MEPs for a short period. You can't do that for forever. That's not democratic. But for a short period, if the UK is still saying, well, our default position is still to leave the EU, and that's where we're going to be at the end of the year, there's no point, then the EU have already said that that's workable. For 21 months, though, that would seem excessive. I mean, that would be, even when the new parliament sits, that's a year and a half. That's of messing about. So I think it would make more sense then for 1 year rather than 21 months. The next sting in the tail, of course, is that Theresa May still face a massive backlash. After all, the no-deal camp at the moment are bitching about her deal because they say this locks us in forever. Which, yeah, it does. But this offer wouldn't. It'd be like, well, we could leave at any time. So really, the hardline Brexiteers wouldn't have much of an argument for it, other than the fact that we don't need an extension to leave without a deal. We can do so this month. And it may be that they still kick up a major fuss because they know that any extension, particularly if we do get a 21-month granted, is only going to lead one way. And she may feel that still, like I've talked about for the past couple of months, that it's better for her keeping her party together for us to leave with no deal than, you know, than split the party. In which case, that doesn't solve the issue either. But if that's her thinking, nothing solves the issue. There's nothing anyone can do. And then the third issue, of course, is that, well, this has come from someone who doesn't have political power. He's a speaker. Well, I mean, he's in the House of Lords, but he's a speaker for the people's vote. He's an advocate. He's someone that people pay attention to. And I'm sure the European leaders would have come across his article or someone would have drawn it to their attention. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way they're thinking. So that would be the other one. But it is an interesting one, you know, because the big issue that, remember, the hardline Brexiteers have with the backstop is that we cannot unilaterally leave it. Well, here is something that we can. This is like a transitionary period, and they said the only issue they have is the backstop. This is like a transitionary period where there's no backstop. You know, it's the same period of time where we get the same benefits, 21 months, and we can leave it unilaterally at any time we like. So their arguments wouldn't hold up against it. But of course, that doesn't stop them coming up with whole new arguments. But it would be interesting. It would possibly be the safest one to try and offer Theresa May for the EU. But we'll just have to see. What do you think? I think it's quite an interesting idea. But anyway, I hope you found it at least interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe for further content, and click the bell notification as well. Until next time, I'll see you later.